This video brought to you by jadedpainting.com. If you need your miniatures painted to a tabletop standard, check out jadedpainting.com. Hey everyone, welcome to this Dark Potential painting tutorial. My name is Jay and today I'll be showing you how to paint this Petrov-Morales Corporation weapon specialist with a flame launcher. I began with the model entirely primed black since we were using very dark colors for this color scheme. It's a great idea to prime it a dark color such as black. I base coated all of the clothing, so basically everything but the head, with gray liner, which is a very dark matte gray produced from Reaper paints. What makes gray liner excellent for this miniature is that the details on this particular miniature are very fine, and thus you should use very thin paints so that you don't accidentally ruin the details. Gray liner is a very thin paint, so it goes on excellent over this black primer, but doesn't obscure any of the very nice details. It should be noted that this color scheme is inspired by the artwork on the Dark Potential website, www.darkpotential.com. When the base coat was done, I gave it all a wash or shading with Nuln Oil shade. This shade will get in all the recesses and bring out a lot of the excellent detail on the clothing. Plus, it will give some more contrast in coloration, which we will then highlight over in the following steps. When the shade was dry, I gave the first highlight with a 2-to-1 mix of gray liner to white scars from Games Workshop. I basically used an overbrush technique, as you can see, and only focused on all the raised areas of the clothing, leaving the recesses the dark gray with the Nuln Oil shading. Remember with this step is to get a nice even coverage over the raised areas. Also, try to cover as much of the raised areas as possible, as you want to get as smooth of a transition from the darks to the lights. And finally, I did one more highlight with a 1-to-1 mix of gray liner and white scars. And for this highlight, I just focused on the areas in which my light source was hitting. So tops of the shoulders, the arms, the top of the gun, and the knees, where these areas would be being hit by a light source. The goal is to leave several different shades of gray on the model and a nice transition from dark to light. I then started on the red areas with Mephiston Red, an excellent deep red color from Citadel range or Games Workshop. And for this color I focused on the cord for the flame launcher, the bulb at the end, the tubes in the flame launcher, because we're going to do a nice gradient of dark reds to a bright orange, his belts and straps, and his goggles, as well as the top of his flame launcher backpack. I tried to use red as the tertiary color for this color scheme, keeping with dark, more natural colors for a member of the corporation. I didn't want to go too fantastic and have very, very bright yellows and oranges. Just stay with dark reds for the uniform. Remember to do very long, thin brush strokes for the straps, as they are very thin, and it's very easy to go outside of those lines. And for the backpack, as I mentioned, I painted the cord, the area in the center, which almost looks like a vent to the central chamber of the flamethrower or flame launcher, and the tops of the vents. I also painted all the discs on his belt with Mephiston red, and which will also be building up a nice gradient on those as well. When the base coat was dry, I gave them all a nice crimson shading with Carroburg Crimson shade. If applied very heavily like I'm doing in here, Carroburg Crimson will actually get in the recesses of these areas and almost appear as dark as black in them, and provide some really nice detail in all of these areas. Plus, it'll bring out the details in the areas like the goggles and the tubing in the gun. If after a single shading you are unhappy with the depth of color, feel free to do a second shading. Just remember to let the first one completely dry before proceeding to the second one. And with this step nearing completion, we can now turn our attention to highlighting all of these red areas, building up a nice gradient to some bright oranges, and focusing on the flesh tones of the model.